Hi everyone, my name is May Park. Thank you for stopping by. Today I'm going to show you how to create a floral birthday card using masking and watercoloring. This video is part of Simon Says Stamp Masterpiece Box blog hub, and I'm so excited to be part of this special blog hub. I'm giving away a $25 gift card to Simon Says Stamp online store, so don't forget to check out my blog for more details, and I hope you can join this inspirational blog hub. These are a few watercolor cards that I create for the last few months. When I don't have any ideas for my card design, I tend to go through my old cards and take some layout and colors from them. That's exactly what I did for today's project. Since I started watercoloring, I've tried a few types of watercolor paper for the last few months. Then I found myself using artist cold pressed watercolor paper frequently. That means it is my favorite watercolor paper at the moment. And I'll be using the craddock gansai tambi watercolor set for today's card. This is the Floral Frame stamp set from Altenew, and it is included in the Simon Says Stamp Masterpiece box. If you want to buy this stamp set separately, you need to wait until Altenew released the stamp set in October. I already tested out a few designs, and this one looks okay to me with a simple floral frame. However, I wanted to have more variety on my card, so I decided to do some masking to create a cluster of flowers. To make the colors pop, I'm gonna stamping with black ink rather than heat embossing with white embossing powder. I'm cutting down my watercolor paper into slightly larger than A2 size using Timor's paper trimmer. This trimmer is one of my favorite paper crafting tools. It cuts paper like butter. This watercolor paper has smooth and textured side. I'm gonna use the textured side because I think it gives an extra interest to my card. So here I'm using my Misty stamping tool today. When you do lots of masking for your card, it's always good to plan out your placement first so you know where you want your images to be positioned. Since I'm gonna watercolor my images, I'll be using Hero's black ink, which is waterproof. If you don't have a waterproof ink, you can heat emboss your images using clear or white embossing powder after stamping with watermark ink or black pigment ink. I didn't get a really good clean impression on some of the stamping because of the texture of the watercolor paper. So I'm gonna ink up the stamp again with the same black ink, and I'm making sure to press down hard enough to make the outlines darker. I'm stamping my image one more time on a post-it note and cutting out with the scissors. I'm gonna mask off my image using removable adhesive. Masking technique is a great way to add some dimension to your images, especially when you make a one-layer card. I'm using a mini Misty stamping tool today. This tool also helps me to stamp the images in a perfect placement. If you don't have this tool, you could use a regular acrylic block or stamp press. Then use a black pen to make outlines darker by tracing the stamped images. By the way, I'm using an absorber towel to clean my stamp. This is a reusable cleaning cloth, and it's great for wiping your stamps for perfect clean. This towel will dry out between use, then just add water to rehydrate the towel. I'm not gonna show you whole stamping process, but I'm stamping 2 or 3 times each time I stamp the image to make sure I get an intense black color. When I pulled out my stamp from the acetate sheet, I torn up part of my stamp by mistake. That's why I have some missing lines on the stamped images. So I'm gonna fix my images with waterproof black pen. Before moving on to the next process, I'll be taping down my watercolor paper on the chipboard sheet using painter's tape. This will help prevent my paper from warping while watercoloring. Now it's time for watercoloring. Here I have my craddock gansai tambi 36 watercolor set, watercolor palette, round paint brushes, clean water, and paper towel ready on my desk. I usually wet my paper with clean water first before watercoloring. This time, I'll skip the process of wetting paper to create a more matte look. Once I pick up some pigment from the watercolor set with my wet paintbrush, I'm gonna apply light color first for the base layer. Then I'll be bringing more colors to my images to add shading. Since I don't plan to create a realistic look of my flowers, I'm not gonna color my images in detail. I just love the white spaces left here and there. I'll be using paper towel to remove the color before adding more colors. I'm also gonna use my heat tool to let the paint dry in between. That will help me to leave brush strokes or water spots when it dries. Now I'm gonna turn on some music and speed up the painting process so you can watch me color. It took me about 40 minutes to color entire images. Then I'll be working on my white background. I wet my paper first with lots of clean water and bring in some brownish gray color. I decide to go even further with some ink splatters. I'm using a post-it note to protect my watercolor images from splatters. I'm also mixing perfect pearl powder with white watercolor paint to add some shimmer to my card. I feel like my card needs some brightness, so I'm adding another ink splatters using Hero Art's Unicorn White Spray. To be honest, I'm not sure if I like this messy background or not. Maybe I should have left the background white without adding any colors or ink splatters. I'm carefully peeling off the painter's tape and using my heat tool to let the ink dry. I'll use the post-it note to pick up the ink in case there's some undried ink. After trimming down my watercolor paper into smaller than 8 size, I'm pulling off the sentiment stamp from the Floral Frame stamp set. I'll be stamping the sentiment with black ink. The sentiment area looks restricting by the ink splatters. It would have been better if I stamped the sentiment first before adding ink splatters. It's now time to assemble my card. I'm using some foam sheet to give dimension on my card. Here I have some natural ivory cardstock measured at 4¼ inch by 11 inch, and I'll be scoring at 5½ inch using Martha Stewart scoring board and bond folder to make an A2 size top folding card. Then I'm gonna mount my watercolor panel on the card base using double-sided tape. To finish off my card, I'll be adding some sequins on the card front. I store all of my sequins in the original packages in a clear container. I'm using some sparkling clear sequins from Pretty Pink Posh, which is my favorite embellishment. Before I go, I'm gonna pull the camera back to show you how my craft desk looks like off the camera. I'm using my iPhone 6 to film the video, and this is a very inexpensive clamp. Obviously, I'm a messy crafter, as you can see here. I push everything on my desk until I finish my project. It always looks like a tornado hit zone. I try to clean up my workspace at the end of a project, but not always. My creative brain works best in a messy space. How about you? Do you clean up your desk when your project is done? What does your desk or craft space look like at the moment? Please leave a comment below. I'd love to hear from you. That's all for today. I hope you enjoyed watching my video tutorial and got some inspiration to create your own watercolor card. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll be back with another video very soon. Bye bye!